The Eighth Son, Are You Kidding Me?, is about a Japanese salaryman who is sitting down for dinner one night, and then he wakes up in the body of a child who is the eighth son of a lesser noble who is also incredibly poor. Comes to find out he has a great aptitude for magic, ends up getting taught magic by an undead who he later has to kill, then goes to an adventuring academy where he meets his party, and then they drop that plot entirely, and then it just becomes about him going on adventures with his party. There is some touch on noble politics, but it is handled very poorly and is not really the crux of the show. It tries to be, but it's not executed very well. In fact, I have long since been a defender of the isekai genre. Sure, it has its tropes and cliches, and there is a large amount of it, but obviously nothing compared to the old Super Robo Boom. But there's nothing inherently wrong about using a trope or a cliche. It's about the execution that matters, and the execution is where Eighth Son completely falls apart. If a trope or cliche is a tool for a writer to use, The Eighth Son, Are You Kidding Me? Is what happens when you give your toolkit to your 6-year-old child and then tell it to go fix a sink. It might occasionally pick up the correct tool, but it has absolutely no idea what it's doing, and it very quickly becomes apparent. The early 3 episodes of the show, where the main character is a child and starts to learn magic from an undead who he then has to kill, are the only salvageable parts of the show, and it drastically goes downhill from there. If we're talking about a failure in execution, where the writers clearly, probably I feel like don't even have a passion for it, but most certainly have no idea what they're doing, there is a lesser used isekai trope where the main character, having been from Japan originally, will attempt to produce a sort of Japanese food or a sort of food that they missed from when they were back on Earth. I have seen this be used for multiple reasons. I've seen it be used for bonding moments between characters. I've seen it played for laughs. I've seen it actually used to further the plot because the characters can start selling their food products to increase their money. This show, there are several parts of the story where the main character, who is originally Japanese, will produce traditional Japanese foods. And these moments do not matter. They don't use them for any discernible purpose, and it doesn't even help further the main character because we already knew he was Japanese, so no new information is being presented. One time, it was used as a overextended metaphor, but even that didn't feel like it further added to the show. And this is basically a consistent problem with Eighth Son, is that it will use tropes and cliches from other better isekai series, several of which have been done to death, but it doesn't know what it's doing with them. In fact, it doesn't seem to know what it's doing at all, because it kind of doesn't succeed at any level. It mostly focuses towards the latter half on the politics, but we don't fully understand the goals and motivations of the characters, aside from one of them, who also feels like he's just evil for the sake of evil. It tries to be an adventure action show, but we never have any reason to care about what's happening. The action isn't very well presented, and needless to say, we don't really care about the characters, which is another issue with the show, is that all of the characters are flat as pancakes. The main character's only defining personality trait is naivete. The love interest in this show is so goddamn boring, I cannot possibly describe how uninteresting she is. She first appears, she's just like smiles right when the arranged marriage comes out of nowhere. She's obviously the white mage healer type, and I was like begging for the show. I was like, come on, show, make her like a huge secret manipulative bitch. That would be such an interesting twist. But no, she stays this like demure, sort of quiet, I don't even want to say mousy, because even that's too much of a characterization. She's just so incredibly milquetoast. Like, she's just like sweet white mage generic healer girl. And they hint that she has insecurities, and she confirms them themselves, but this is usually more of the main character projecting his insecurities, because his insecurities are more commonly explored than hers are. She's just kind of there to take up space. She is one of the most uninteresting love interests I've ever seen in anything. Then there's the fiery-tempered best friend character, and then there's the red-haired girl who has a personality. I assume I could not tell you anything about her. The only consistent party member that is of any interest is the blue-haired girl, and even she would just be a sort of quirky secondary cast, maybe even tertiary cast, in a better show. Twitch and Discord in the description. I've been Sacrobolic, your envoy of hope. Bye-bye!